The series is going to be a little bit different than what I've done so far. But before I start, I want to give some context, so let's go upstairs real quick. You saw the video a while back on the Inferno lamp that I did from Final Fantasy XIV. I had mentioned at the beginning of that video that a long time ago at our old house, I had done a giant mural of Pyramid Head from Silent Hill 2. What I didn't mention in that video was that I have done a ton of Silent Hill inspired stuff, and that's what we're up here to talk about. The only figure in this collection that I did not make was this one here from Gecko. This was probably around 2015 or so when these came out, and this is around the time that the Silent Hill collectible craze kind of blew up. But before that, the only thing you could get your hands on were resin kits, or garage kits is what you'd call them. These came as kits that you had to assemble and paint. Similar to your figures and minis that you would get for, like, say, Warhammer or something like that, but usually standing about 6 to 9 inches tall. I do believe that this Pyramid Head here was the first one that I had painted. And along with the nurse and the missionary. These were fun little projects. Unfortunately, not many of these figures were out and about. None of them were technically official. They were usually made by a third party, unaffiliated with Konami, and they'd only sell maybe a couple hundred of these. Usually went for several $100s plus. That was back in the early 2000s. Now, most of the garage kits that you would see for these kinds of figures were all recasts. Say what you want about the controversial nature of that, that's how most of us got these. The main issue people tend to have with recasts is that over time, you're recasting a recast of a recast, and over time that degrades the details in the figures. But because these are so old, mostly from the mid-2000s to late 2000s, a lot of the details in the resin casting is still there, which made these very fun to paint. This is the second curio cabinet that we have of my old figures. If I remember right, I do believe Valtiel was the second one that I had done. Not to mention that most of these figures did not come with bases. Valtiel is one of the few I have that did come with a base. The only addition I did to that base was the steel piping. That was, I believe, wooden dowels and some automotive spot putty to make up some of the edges in the joint piece around the corner. Alright, so these two are kind of cool. These are both Heather and Alessa, but they're actually the exact same figure. I had got my hands on 2 copies of a Heather figure, and for the Alessa I had reworked several pieces because these come in sections. And I completely redid her pose to make her seem a little more messed up. As I had mentioned before, the bases did not come with most of these, so I had to make my own. Most of these just used wooden plaques, and then I kind of got something inspired similar to what was already in the game, usually somewhere around where these characters were known for. So for example, the base here for Alessa is based on the floor of the carousel from Silent Hill 3. And for Heather, I just used a metal grating. I can't remember exactly where I got that from. I do believe it was from something from the kitchen section at Walmart that had kind of like a metal mesh to it. And I bought that, just cut it out, and then created like a little framework for it. Down here were the last 2 that I did. One's a lying figure and one's a mannequin. The base for the mannequin did come with it, so the only 2 that had a base with them was Valtiel and this mannequin. These weren't all that special to paint. They didn't have enough detail or any kind of nothing fancy about them. So they were a really quick rush job. I think I did them both in like a an hour or two each. It was really short. It was a real short turnaround. I believe the base for the lying figure was based on just the street sidewalks that you'd see it out and about. So, needless to say, I've been a fan of the series for a very long time. And just like any old fan, I have a lot of gripes. But I still have a lot of figures too. Alright, so I still have 3 of these figures that I've never painted before. I've had them for a very long time. They've mostly just been sitting. 2 of them I got to finish my collection, and in the other one, it was a situation that I could not pass up. So let's talk about these real quick. So this one here is a Slurper. This is from Silent Hill 3. Spoiler alert, they're all from Silent Hill 3. This guy's usually found crawling across the floor, never stands up. Casting on this is pretty good. You'll notice that they are mostly already pre-assembled. I just never got around to actually doing the whole process. So what we're hopefully going to be doing in this series. Next, this was going to be the one that I was going to start, but it was messed up. This is the pendulum. These guys were mostly found in the mall and the sewers. This is the only one of the 3 that came with a base. Nothing fancy here. That's going to need a lot of work to clean up. This one was messed up, like royally messed up. I don't know if I can really show it here or not. I tried salvaging the belt. It would not fit no matter what way I connected these guys. I used a ton of filler to try and fill in the gaps. I never actually sanded it off, thankfully. Automotive spot putty is very soft and will sand off way before any of the resin does. I do have all the parts for him. His blades, looks like these blades on his head had snapped off. There should be a mounting rod somewhere. I hope I have it. Not that I can find. I'll make do, I'll find something. And then last but not least, I have another memory of Alessa. This one here, I'd already started putting it together as well. It still needs cleaned up. This is the one I had to jump on the chance to get. So, like I mentioned when I was upstairs, these things came as a kit. But the official original castings were only sold in very limited runs by the actual sculptor themselves, not through Konami or anybody like that. So the person that sculpted this, I can't remember who it was. I want to say there's like a run of maybe like 800-900 of these, and then that was it forever. At the time, I was in a Facebook group, this would have been years ago, mostly of like Silent Hill collectors. So a lot of us had collected a lot of rare stuff. A lot of people collected these kinds of things, and it was how we kind of like bought and traded our collections. One guy got his hands on one of these, and we were just in talking, and I was like, dude, you're so lucky. I would kill to have that. Then he messaged me saying, I've never done any recasts before, but I'm willing to try, and I'll sell you a recast, and if they do well enough, I'll sell a couple to some more people in the group. And I was like, sure. So about like a month goes by. He's like, hey, I managed to do it. Do you want one? And I was like, yes, name your price. The price was fair. I can't remember what these go for these days, especially in like the recasts, because like I mentioned before, you have your original one, which can probably go for like, I swear they go for like $750 tops. Now it's over 10 years ago for a brand new one, which only ran in a limited run of like less than 1,000. So then you would have your recasts, which like your first generation recasts. They are the recasts of like the original sold product. I want to say they probably ran around like the 250 to 350 range. And then as everything started going more and more down that progression, the price would slowly drop. I think these days the most modern recasts are probably around like the $50 to $75 range, because they've been recast so many times that they've lost a lot of detail. They're not that nice looking anymore. So this being an original one, I don't want to say I spent a whole lot. I want to say it was like maybe $250 or something like that. I got it off them, and I never ever finished it. And I think we're going to finally do that. As for the first two, when you buy them as a kit, these were from, was it Koreki, I think? Yeah, this is by no means a advertisement for them, because I don't even know if he still sells them. If I remember right, I think they were based out of Mexico. I can't remember 100% because I've used to buy from a bunch of different sources. But they'd usually give you a photo reference for the characters themselves, so you could get an idea of what it should look like in the end. But obviously they don't have bases, so I went ahead and bought some wooden plaques. This is the same exact way I've done the other ones. Then I would kind of sculpt in clay on top of these to make a base surface that looks similar to something from the game, and then mount the character to it. That's where a lot of these pins come into place. There's it's just metal pins, drill a hole down into the foot, super glue, and in the end I will end up drilling holes in the same exact spot inside here, and that's where they will stand. It'll go the whole way through, super glue that afterwards, easy peasy. But yeah, this will conclude the little intro I have for this. I'm excited to finally finish hopefully all three of them, and I'm also excited to sit here and complain about Silent Hill, which I have done many of times off camera. I'm sure I have plenty of material to just sit here and moan. Feel free to watch and suffer as I go along and making these things. Alright. Probably sharpen these. Oh yeah.